All right. We are live here with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. Again, this is Craig LeBlanc, your host. I've got a few things for you. We're starting to ramp up. This week will be mainly me just getting into the habit of showing up every day, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central my time in Louisiana, and bringing y'all the content that I feel like I have access to, and kind of things that have converted me, and just sharing mainly what people ask me a lot about Bitcoin, especially new people, beginners, stuff like that. And then also, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just tell you all about that once I get into the mission. Let me go ahead and make sure I boost it real quick. There we go. All right. We are going to post it, promote it. Sorry, I have a larger account, my personal account. Let's see. Bear with me. So if you are working on X and you're trying to promote and you're trying to get a lot of attention, working the algorithm, I guess you could say, have people. So if you're watching this, please, it would help promote the channel as we continue to grow it. It helps if you post it, share it while it's live, and then if you pin it to the top. When I was working with the other, when we were building the Bitcoin Daily Show, a lot of our audience members that were regulars, when they were watching the live show, they would post it during the live and then pin it to the top. So if anybody's out there trying to grow their Bitcoin space, trying to create content, that's one little hack you can do to help grow your audience quicker. All right. So mission vision of the show. I had taken a break from producing content for the Bitcoin Daily Show. Had a bunch of personal stuff going on, and then I had to move twice. Probably getting ready to move a third time within the next year, so I feel like a nomad. But I got in a place where I could settle down a little bit, and I really missed making content for the Bitcoin Daily Show. And so now I've restarted the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. And so a lot of the people that I interviewed, I was still learning a lot about how to make content, how to produce a podcast, how to produce media. Ended up going back into my old industry and relaunching a media company within Parks and Recreation. Excuse me. And learned a lot about creating media, which is now a new passion of mine. And I've actually got some good team members. So we've got 3 full-time staffers that are helping me to create this and the other podcast that I work with. Of course, I couldn't create long for the daily Parks and Rec show, which is more about parks and recreation throughout America, working with that industry. It's an industry I love a lot. And the whole time I'm making all this great content, growing on all the platforms, I'm just wanting to get back into Bitcoin. I still go to my meetups in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge, loving it. And everyone's always encouraging me to get back in it, to create more content, and to just help share the word about Bitcoin. So here I am. The new, I guess the kind of direction I'm taking this is a little bit different than the last show that I helped create. This one, I am gathering a group of digital artists. So imagine you have this family and you want to paint a portrait. And so you invite an artist, some master that brings his paint and his canvas and his skill. And then he's like, all right, what do you want me to paint? Where is everybody? Okay. So what I want to do is tell the story of Bitcoin as it unfolds, give the updates, produce an inspirational content, bring in the people that are really at the front line, creating, building on the Bitcoin network. And we want to put them in front of these digital artists that I have found, and I'm growing. I will probably by the end of this year be up to 20 or 30 full-time digital artists that work for the media company that I've started. And I really want to point their gifts and talent at a chunk of that towards Bitcoin, because I feel like that's just one of the greatest goods that we can do, is to help in any way Bitcoin grow. and to an extended part of that Noster, which is decentralized communication, I guess you could call it. I don't even know if anybody's coined that yet, but essentially what we love about Bitcoin being decentralized finance, decentralized property, decentralized money. Nostr does the same thing, except for social media communication, freedom of speech. So if you want to have true ownership by Bitcoin, if you want to have freedom of speech, invest in Nostr, or I say invest your time in it. And since it's an open protocol, which I am still learning a lot more about, but I feel like it's pretty much the same spirit there, is that if we can't own property and if we can't speak freely, then to some degree you're caged by some other body of people or some other organization. So you must be able to speak freely, and you must be able to own property. Bitcoin and Nostr kind of give us both of those to a degree that humanity's never experienced before. Hold on a second. So sorry, I had this heater underneath me baking me. All right, so I do have quite an extensive network of Bitcoiners that across the planet Earth that I've become close friends with and stayed in touch with. They're all excited about coming on the show, giving us updates about what they're doing. One thing I loved about my last experience with creating content for the Bitcoin community was all the people I met, all the stuff that was going on, how this is truly a global movement that is taking the world by storm. And I will have no shortage of people to bring onto the show and to tell us all the cool stuff. That I work in the last show, I worked with a guy named James. Shout out to James in Spain, has a new little baby. Awesome. We keep in contact every now and then. But his Saturday show was the only show that went from 10 to 12. All the other shows went from 8 to 10. His was Bitcoin at the Frontier. And I loved his show because he was finding all the places where Bitcoin was just like blossoming in these remote corners of planet Earth, and they were just experiencing banking, money, transacting peer to peer without the need of something that wasn't even there, which is a trusted third party. They didn't have the luxury of having a third party they could distrust. They just were no third parties. That's called the bankless. So here in the developed world, we get to complain about our third parties are not very trustworthy. And they're over there saying, well, at least you have a third party not to trust. Over here, we have nothing. And so it's hard for an economy to grow when there's no monetary system whatsoever. And now that you can have just mobile devices that can hook up to things like Starlink, the banking system that Bitcoin provides, the system that Bitcoin provides to be able to exchange goods and services using Bitcoin is revolutionary for them. It's not going to take however many hundreds of years it took us to set up the modern banking system. So anyway, I'm going to bring a lot of those guys on the show. I really, that's kind of where my heart was. I'm sure we'll get some more well-known guys that I was in contact with as well, just because who doesn't want to hear from, Jeff Booth or Breedlove or, any of the other guys that I followed that kind of brought me into it. So I'll reach out to a few of those guys just to have them on, check in with them, have them on the show. See if I get Michael Saylor on here. I think I was talking to him on Nostr, or at least somebody that's managing his platform. So, but I really want to focus on the frontier and bring to y'all what's going on out there, at least as part of the program here. But at the same time, I'll be having competitions among the digital artists that we employ, and we will be picking certain topics, and creating little shorts, 2 and 3 minute, almost like Bitcoin promo videos, Bitcoin commercials. I was watching some of the Bitcoin commercials. Man, there was a phenomenal one. Everyone should go watch it. It's a Super Bowl commercial. Just type in Bitcoin Super Bowl commercial. Very well done. Whoever did that, unbelievable job. Great cinematography. These are the kind of guys I want to bring on and just really flood the world with inspirational 2 and 3 minute videos through our artists that work for me full time at the media company, which is called the date. Well, it's called the Daily Parks and Rec Show. So DPRS Media Co. So if you're ever, excuse me, if you ever see any content out there under that name, that's us. All right. So moving on. Mission of the show is just get the word out there, create content, employ the digital artists to tell the story, be the storytellers of Bitcoin. And so if this interests you, if you're involved, if you're interested in maybe contributing as an artist, we've got a writer on staff as well. Yeah, give me a call. We'll have you on there on the show. Maybe you can tell us what you're working on, and maybe we can point our crowd towards your direction. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about, I was reading this book I'm a fan of. This is called The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and this is a pretty cool copy. This is like an old 13th century binding technique where they would drill holes through it and then sandwich it with bamboo. And then they would only, this is pretty cool. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see, put it up to my face. But you see how these pages are folded in half. So this is how they used to, at least in the Chinese culture, they would bind these books only on one side after folding them. But anyway, pretty cool copy. I bought like every one of those Barnes & Noble had, and I give them as presents to a lot of my entrepreneurial mentors. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, one of the big themes in Sun Tzu's Art of War is understanding the terrain. That if you understand the terrain, whether it be mountainous, whether it be swampy, and then even understanding the weather, understanding cold, understanding the heat, understanding what with the position you're going to put your army in, was vital to victory. That if I don't know, do we ever know any histories and figure that decided to launch a major campaign in the winter, let's say the Russian winter, and how did that work out for them? The Russians gently call that guy General Winter, who has won more battles against Russia's enemies probably than the soldiers themselves. The whole point is you need to understand the territory that you're going to be operating in. You cannot go in blind. Now, why am I bringing this up when it comes to Bitcoin? So as I was reading this book earlier, trying to figure out what I was going to talk about, Bitcoin is a new terrain to operate your business, your life, creating generational wealth, preserving generational wealth. Now, much like and Jason Lowery wrote a great book on this. If you hadn't read his book called Soft Wars, it's a great read. If you can still get a copy of it, I don't even know if it's been banned or not, but hopefully me uttering his name doesn't get a shadow ban because I think he's in trouble for even writing that book. But awesome guy. I saw him speak on Breed Love's show, and I must have watched that thing at least 3 or 4 times, a couple-hour interview. Great interview if it's still up. Suggest everybody watch it. But he is a tacticianer when it comes to war. He's part of these think tanks that just think of ways that we may get attacked, right? And to prepare us for, how do we defend ourselves in these new areas of warfare. And so being a lifelong entrepreneur, you learn to think like both strategic and tactically, similar to how you think about in war, because a lot of the same rules and principles apply. So let me give you an example. If you're a farmer and you're just farming the way that we've always farmed for 100 years, with your mule and your little plow that you walk behind, and this is a family business passed down generation after generation, and you get X number of dollars for a potato, and the potato's kind of related to your labor. And then the tractor's invented, and your neighbor gets the tractor. And now he can drop the cost of his potatoes because his potatoes don't have near the manual labor because of this new big machine that can make it to where he can plow a field and plant potatoes so much more efficiently that he drops his price. You can no longer sustain your business, your family, your farm. You have to sell the farm to the guy with the tractor. And so the lesson learned there is that you have to adopt the disruptive technology if you're going to continue to compete in the potato business. Okay. Now you can layer that lesson over every business every hour you worked, all the wages you received, any economy that, for instance, if I'll give you a more modern example, if you are in the movie rental business and you're renting VHSs, and of course you're not going to go up against the big blockbuster, but a little mom and pop store on the corner, it can be really small. I used to go to this when I was a kid, and everybody went and picked out their movie and they rewound it and brought it back, and $2 a visit or $1 a video, whatever. Um, if you did not sell that business when you saw Netflix come out, maybe you saw the writing on the wall and realized that all of this analog stuff is going digital. And if we don't get out of this business and find some other way to generate income outside of renting movies, renting plastic, having people come pick up a piece of plastic, bring it back to their machine, rewind it, watch it, play it, whatever, bring it back, that's going to get crushed and consumed by something that's all digital coming through your phone, $17 a month, all the movies you can stand. So the point is that there is disruption. Disruption destroys the old ways, the old economy. If your competitor, we won't call them your enemies, we'll just call them your competitors, are able to leverage the new way of life, the new way of business, the new way to preserve capital, the new way to send capital, they're going to price you out the driver's seat of your business and free your team of employees up for another kind of business. So when a disruptive technology comes in, like Netflix, like the iPhone with the digital camera, and you may, and here's the key, you may not see this disruptive technology as a direct threat to you. But just because I'm in the map business, and what does the map business have to do with an iPhone? You know, maybe Nokia needs to be afraid of the Apple iPhone, but certainly I produce maps and I put them in truck stops. Truckers are always going to need maps. Oh well, never mind. The my map business became an app on the iPhone, and so in a very similar way, um, Bitcoin and the Bitcoin economy and how it transacts, how it sends money, how it's a trustless system. So let's think about a component of the physical map that kept the physical map business from competing with the digital app on the iPhone. One was physical, one was digital. The map had to be printed. It had to be stocked in the shelf of the truck stop. It had your moving atoms. Atoms move very slowly. They move at the speed of UPS and the speed of a printer, whereas a digital map moves at the speed of light over the air, however that stuff works, right? And so did you see how the map making company dealt in physical and Apple dealt in the digital? And so it's kind of like an airplane competing against a naval ship. The Navy ship can't switch gears and take flight. It's just not made to participate in that paradigm. And so, in a similar way, if the companies of the world, if the entrepreneurs of the world are starting to take a look at digital advertising and consider how they can raise brand awareness quicker across digital platforms and social media, these same entrepreneurial minds, the front runners, the early adopters, the ones that adopt the disruptive technology earlier, will outpace, will outperform, will outproduce those that are in the slower, that have more friction in their transactions, the ones that get feed to death by the banks. All of those companies will have to pay higher fees, have slower moving money. Their capital will not be as preserved. The trusted third parties will let them down. And so what you'll see is that there is a quiet movement of Bitcoin companies, both large and small, Fortune 500, big companies. We've got big ETFs. We've got BlackRock consuming massive amounts of Bitcoin or holding it on the books through Coinbase, however they're doing it. You got Michael Saylor gaming the whole system, trying to be just basically a way to own every Bitcoin in every way you can cut it up, similar to how Rockefeller chopped up oil and sold it to, the pavers all the way to the diesel and jet fuel and oil and everything else. And so Michael Saylor's just carving up Bitcoin and making it into a stock, stock options, you name it. And so, in a similar fashion, you've got smaller companies holding it as a treasury reserve asset. You've got individuals that are putting it in their long term wealth storage, and they are just building wealth, preserving capital, transacting with lesser fees, with less friction, 24/7 across the planet. And these companies and these individuals are just going to scale faster. They're going to protect their wealth um, much, uh, much less friction than anyone that's in the old system. And what do I mean by the old system? Well, it could be fiat. It could be maybe investing in real estate. It could be investing in the Fortune 500, stocks or bonds, maybe even in your own company. Any other asset you can do to hold wealth, could be gold or silver even. These are all ways that you can preserve capital. And what Sun Tzu teaches us is that whoever can master the terrain the best, the modern terrain, is going to win. And I would just encourage, if you are in the business of making money, spending money, preserving wealth, building wealth, you need to learn the modern battlefield of wealth preservation. Um, Bitcoin is the next generation of, I don't want to call it weapons. It's not, I hate to use that word. It's the new way to preserve capital. It's a new way um, to project energy into the future. Maybe that's a good way to put it. It is an energy network, right? It takes energy to get Bitcoin. You either have to give up your cash for it, or you have to spend a ton of electricity and compute to get it, or you have to convince somebody else to give it to you somehow. But you're not going to get it without putting something of value up. And maybe that's the biggest thing that we've ever seen. If you want Bitcoin, how about this? There's a thought that came to me. What other asset forces you to give something up for it? You have to give something for Bitcoin. Everything else you can take by force. Your city can take your land. Your state can take your land. You go through a divorce, your land can be taken. Your business can be taken by your partners. The banks can pretty much take it everything or debank you or that kind of stuff. You're only allowed to transact with a certain group of people that maybe your country agrees with. Bitcoin doesn't have any of those restraints. Whether they're problems morally or whatever, I don't know. But all I know is it just doesn't have those restraints. Um, Bitcoin allows you to just verify and send. That's it. If peer to peer, globally, anytime, 24/7, for a few dollars, and it's final settlement, and it's audited every 10 minutes. And so when you just start to rattle off these strengths, and then you go back to the old way and try to conduct business with ACH, with banking hours and holidays, like today, yeah, you go send a bank transaction today on a Monday. It's President's Day. Oh, bank holiday. Can't send it. I guess you get to do business. Well, not in the Bitcoin world. We're 24/7 around the clock, never been down, keep going. TikTok, next block. Funds get sent, goods and services are sent in response, and we are conducting business. Meanwhile, you are strapped to a mule trying to plow something, and we got this nice John Deere over here just plowing up a field. This is the disruptive technology that brings modern economy. This is the disruptive technology that brings in modern businesses. And either you figure out how to operate in the new terrain and playing field, or you fall victim to everyone that lost to Sun Tzu. Um, and he knew that if you did not master these new terrains, that would be your downfall. So master the new terrain of understanding what Bitcoin is. And notice I am not referring to crypto or cryptocurrency. This is not the same thing. Okay, don't make the mistake I did and play around in shitcoin land for however long. Um, Took me 2 years to find my way out of that. Thank you to the Bitcoiners on X Spaces for showing me the light and helping me to understand what decentralization means. Fortunately, I came out of there not too, fairly unscathed. Um, but it took me probably a year of study and watching people get rug pulled. I was able to watch from a distance FTX and Luna and some of these things. And at the time, I was still playing around in some cryptocurrency altcoins without true understanding of what decentralization means. Um, and decentralization is something, unfortunately, you have to experience. Unless you experience what decentralization is just to see it at face value, to read its definition, that's not enough. It's almost like you have to step on this landmine to know, oh, that's what happens when you step on this landmine. Your leg gets blown off. Decentralization is so important. It's so important to not have a centralized authority, to not have a throat to choke, to not have some body or a team of men that can be called into a government and threatened and made to, bend to the will of whatever power or government or military. Bitcoin doesn't have that. There is no one to call. As Kathy Wood says, there's no throat to choke. And that's a key component of Bitcoin. One of many, I might add, but that is a big one. Being able to conduct your business peer-to-peer, trustless, in a decentralized manner, that's going to make it to where the rest of the world can participate. The 4 billion unbanked people, again, learn about Bitcoin as much as you can. Okay, so I'll close with one last point. I do have probably a growing number of Parks and Rec people. So I often tell them, I say, guys, I started my Bitcoin show, my podcast journey in the Bitcoin family. And I learned about podcasting. I learned about, thanks to Nate Martin with 99 Bitcoin for setting me up with some really good sound equipment and helping me to even launch the daily Parks and Rec show. And hopefully we can do a lot more work together as I grow this opportunity for the both of us. But what I'd like to do is kind of show y'all that if you're onboarding new family and friends, this is a very common question that I get just because for some reason, maybe I'm just lucky, but I seem to have onboarded and brought a lot of people to Bitcoin personally, just in the meetups, in my family, friends. And now I've got, I don't know, I say it's a lot. It's maybe 50-ish, 50, 60 people. So I guess you could say I've had 50 to 60 people that I brought to Bitcoin and that I brought through the steps of, okay, if you're going to do this, here's some things you got to know. And I wish somebody would have showed me this, would have held my hand through it. I was one of those converted by YouTube and converted by X Spaces. So shout out to everybody on X Spaces that puts on those spaces every day. Every day there is a Bitcoin space to listen to, several. There's a few in the morning, there's a few at lunch, there's some in the evening. Some of them are a bunch of crazy fools. God love them. They can get a little hostile. I love that part of them. I'm sorry if y'all don't like it. I find it endearing and comical, and they're super hardcore Bitcoiners, which is a little off-putting at first, but over time they kind of grow on you. You learn to get some thick skin and not let it bother you too much. But there are so many different flavors. They're all doing such a great job. And if any of y'all are listening, man, keep going. Keep going. If it weren't for y'all, I would not know a fraction of what I know about Bitcoin. And that's where I got a lot of my inspiration and knowledge about Bitcoin. A lot of these guys are going to be coming on this show. So you'll be able to talk to them as well. But if you're listening for the first time trying to find Bitcoin content, or let's say this is the first time you've come across a Bitcoin podcast or Bitcoin anything, and you're just trying to learn more, and it's overwhelming, and you don't understand this terminology, and I'm not good with finances, and this is, what is crypto, what is blockchain, what is all this stuff, man, the fog of war, the confusion of the new terminology. Most of us don't have any financial education to begin with. A lot of us are not accountants or bookkeepers or lawyers or economists. We're just regular people that are trying not to go broke through inflation. And we're trying to understand something that's not easily understood. But I would tell you this, you're not alone in that journey. I don't know a Bitcoiner that just snapped their finger and said, oh, I got it. I think Bitcoin humbles you, and it shows you a lot of what you're missing. But if you're just patient with yourself, you've got a little bit of a journey. You need to put in 100, 200 hours to kind of get to where you can kind of see the light a little bit. So it's going to take that time. Don't expect that you're going to understand it instantly. It will take some time, mainly because there is a financial vocabulary you will have to learn. I've got a couple of good books up here. Lynn Alden did a great book. Of course, the Bitcoin Standards, a great book, and there's several others. And one thing I like about those books is they start off with the history of money, and they teach you what money is, what an economy is, what a means of exchange is, what a unit of account is. They teach you these financial terms, which you're going to need later in your Bitcoin journey to understand what Bitcoin is. I love how Lynn Alden actually explains to you through her whole book what Bitcoin is and then labels it at the very end. So she kind of builds you up all the way from not knowing much about money and how it works and how to transact and trade. And then before you know it, Bitcoin just, it makes sense. And that's what you're going to have to do. So be patient. And I'll give you a few hints. One of the things you're going to want to do is invest in your education. Like I said, put in a couple hundred hours on YouTube. You can listen to this show or many others like it. I actually listened to Robert Breedlove for quite a while, and I listened to Jeff Booth. We're both good people to start with, but then you'll find many others from there. You don't have to take my journey. So that's step number one. Step number two, you need to connect socially with some Bitcoiners. Go to your local meetup. There's practically one in every city. You can come down to New Orleans and Baton Rouge, but there's great Bitcoin meetups. Go meet the people of Bitcoin. They're pretty solid people. Here's a couple of reasons. Bitcoin's pretty useless if you've got no extra capital. I take that. It can be used as a mean of exchange. We're rooting for that. It has to happen. I'm one of the people that thinks using Bitcoin to trade for your daily stuff, that's what I want to support. Of course, I'm going to use it as a way to do long-term storage, store value. Yeah, of course, I'm already there. But I like to see it as a means of exchange as well. I think if that fails, then perhaps the whole network fails. I stole that from Jeff Booth, so I'm assuming he's right. But if you want to know more about that, just look at his work. That's kind of how they're framing it. And I think he's taken a deep enough dive that he's probably right. Let me try to understand that a little bit more. And certainly I can bring him onto the show and have him explain it to you. But the point is, using it as a means of exchange is good. It's important to meet the Bitcoin people. They're value creators. They make more money than they consume, and they're looking to store it. They're typically generous people. They're not easily ruled. They're inquisitive. They must be humble at some point because they had to admit to themselves that everything they knew about money and wealth creation was totally wrong. They had to be open to that message, let it in, and then they had to rebuild their entire wealth structure. And that is a humbling experience, especially if you're a long-time wealth generator, money manager. Let's say you've just been building wealth for your family for quite some time. and you've done it successfully, and now all of a sudden you've got to admit to yourself that, oh my gosh, this new thing is going to completely disrupt everything. Now I've got to recalibrate everything into Bitcoin. That is a humbling journey for anyone. And these are the kind of people you're going to meet in Bitcoin. Humble people. Now, if you see them on X, they might not sound too humble, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have to go through a very humbling experience. And I like that. I like people that have endured hardships. Great crowd of people. I love the Bitcoin community. You should meet them in person. And part of that is you need to go to one of these live events that, like a regional event or a national conference, something. Do yourself a favor just to meet the people at a large event. You get to see the spirit of the community. And I think you got to go meet your tribe. So I'm telling y'all all this because this is how I bring people closer to Bitcoin. This is how I've brought the 50 to 60 people that I have brought. And it's more than just watch this video or go buy some Bitcoin. That's part of it. There is an educational journey. You need to meet the people. The next step is buy some Bitcoin. Buy it. I don't care how you buy it. Unfortunately, some people are going to come through Coinbase. I don't recommend that because there's a lot of distraction, a lot of noise in Coinbase. It's like going into the casino to get a hamburger. There's so much temptation to go do something else than get a hamburger. Why do you think they have these awesome buffets over there? It's because they're trying to get the people that want the buffet and, oh, while you're here, come play blackjack slots and stuff. And so Coinbase is the same way. You show up to Coinbase, I'm just here to get some Bitcoin, a healthy meal, maybe a good grass-fed steak because I'm a carnivore. Oh, look at this. I'm playing blackjack. Look at here. I'm playing craps and stuff. And you get distracted by these flashy lights and by these get rich quick schemes. And look, you don't need to be in there. Nothing good happens in that place. There's a reason there's no windows. There's a reason there's free drinks. There's a reason there's awesome food. And there's a reason the door can't be found once you're in there for an hour. It's to keep you distracted and to drain your bank account with these foolish games and this promise of hitting the jackpot, which the house always wins. All of these other cryptocurrencies are designed, they're the house. The house always wins. The creators of these cryptocurrencies, the game was designed for their benefit. Now, they'll pitch you on all these fancy use cases about how, well, this is going to be able to, you'll be able to code on this and you'll be able to send payments more efficiently for free. And guys, I don't know how else to put it, but there's only one best shape for the wheel, and it's a perfect circle. Bitcoin is the most engineered, perfected money. All the others traded something for something of less value. Maybe they claim to be a little bit faster, but at what expense? Did they trade decentralization? Did they trade security? Did they can they be threatened? Is there a development team that could die? Is there a development person, a founder that could get in a car wreck by accident? Now, he could just die of a heart attack, natural causes, right? Now, what happens to that coin? So it's important that you are not distracted by all these other cryptocurrencies, that you stay the course, you stay on Bitcoin, you buy it, you hold it. So let's talk about holding it. That's the next step. I suggest you get it on a Bitcoin only exchange. There's several good ones. I use Strike. I'm just a fan of Jack Mallers. I love the content he puts out. He seems like a really solid guy that's here for the mission. I've also gotten people on River. I use them both. River and Strike. I don't get a penny from either one of those. At least I don't right now. Maybe they'll sponsor the show. They're not doing it right now. I'm not even looking for sponsorship at this point. But they're Bitcoin only. That's important. It's important that you're not tempted, because for you to go all the way down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin, you have to get past number go up as quickly as possible. If you're here to get rich, you'll do it if you buy, hold, don't sell. Okay. But the odds of you coming here to get rich and not being distracted by marketing dollars of other cryptocurrencies that promise to get you richer, quicker, with less risk, whatever, are pretty slim. And the only thing protecting you from that is for you getting all the other knowledge about what Bitcoin offers. So the point is stay on a Bitcoin only exchange. Now, have you bought Bitcoin yet? No, it's still on exchange. It's not yours until you take self-custody. In other words, it's not yours until you walk out the store with it. If you go to a pawn shop and you buy a gold coin, you should leave with that coin. You should not leave it at the pawn shop to hold for safekeeping, because pawn shops can get robbed. Okay. And maybe you know the owner and he's a good guy, but you know, he doesn't sleep there. And maybe if he does, there's men that overpower him and take your gold coin and his. And he's like, man, I'm sorry, I lost all your gold coins. I didn't mean to. And now I'm broken. You're broken. We're just broke together. Okay. So take your gold coins with you. Take your Bitcoin with you. How do you do it? You're going to have to get a hard wallet. You can get a soft wallet too. There's a couple of good out there. Forget their names. I haven't used them in so long. What was it? Sparrow, I think, was a good one. I'll pull up my old list of good soft wallets. But you should get a good hard wallet. I use a Trezor. A lot of my Bitcoin friends use Cold Card. Cold Card, I think, is kind of the gold standard out there. It's a little bit more challenging to use, but look, it's all a little bit of a challenge. You can learn how to use Cold Card. You can learn how to use Trezor. I get the Safe 3 for $79. Make sure you get it off the exact website on both of these. There are scammers everywhere. There's landmines everywhere. Everyone's always trying to scam you out of your Bitcoin. Don't ever give up your 12-word seed phrase to anyone unless you want to just give them your Bitcoin. So if it's someone you trust with your Bitcoin, maybe a spouse or maybe a family member or somebody, hey, if I die, this is my Bitcoin, this is where it is. Okay, maybe that person you can trust with your seed phrase. Outside of that, never take a picture of it. Never have a digital copy of it. You write it down. You make sure, if you can, I recommend you memorize the 12 words or the 24 words in order, and then you hammer them out in steel. Or Trezor offers this other thing. I just bought it. I can I'll unwrap it and show y'all tomorrow. It's like a little steel tube. Apparently it can hold 12, 24 word seed phrase, and it's a little more secure. So you can use something like that. I haven't even used mine yet. So, all right. So when you have people, these are the steps. If you're going to a Bitcoin meetup, bring them with you. Introduce them to some other people. Remember this, guys, when you've got the right message, you're not the problem. I mean, perhaps the messenger is the problem. It's not that you have the wrong message, it's that you're the wrong messenger. They may just need to hear it from someone other than their brother, or someone other than their spouse, or someone other than a male, or someone other than a female. They may just need to find somebody at the Bitcoin meetup that can explain it in their language. They probably heard you beat them over the head with Bitcoin knowledge for a year now. Bitcoiners are famous for that. And so maybe take a step back and introduce them to the community and let them beat them over the head, and then you can swap people. So help engage them in the Bitcoin community. Attend some live events. Start your Bitcoin educational journey, online books, whatever. Just start it. Get a couple hundred hours deep into it before you start flipping out about what you do or don't know. Go ahead and get your account on Strike or River. You can do that today and buy $10 worth of Bitcoin. Okay. The lessons are the same if you buy 10,000 or $10. You still got to set up an account, send money in, buy at a certain price, and then take it off exchange onto your hardware wallet. Again, you can learn that lesson with $10. Go ahead and learn those lessons, and then slowly maybe buy another $10, and then maybe buy $10 a week, and then maybe buy $10 a day. And then you just set a reoccurring purchase of maybe $1 an hour, $2 an hour, $3 an hour, and just start dollar cost averaging in, set it and forget it, have it drain out of your bank account just like a regular bill. and then just that'll start your wealth building journey. And then you pull it off of that, pull it into your Trezor, hammer it out in 12-word seed phrase, boom, you're there. That's all you got to do. Okay, it really is that simple when it comes to just open an account on Strike, put some cash in there, buy Bitcoin, put it on your Trezor, and daily cost average in. Okay, now it took me a while to learn that, and I didn't do that overnight, but it really is that simple. There's lots of videos on how to do pretty much everything I just said. If you need to rewind it, press play, pretty simple. And the reason I want to have kind of those baby steps, because I know I'm going to have a lot of Parks and Rec people that met me through Parks and Recreation. Of course, I'm always find a way to get the conversation around Bitcoin because it's something I'm passionate about. I care about these people, and I want them to be wealthy, and I want their property to be protected. I mean, if you love somebody, if you love a community, well, sharing Bitcoin knowledge with them is an act of love. At least that's how I see it. Just like you would want somebody to know how to swim. If you're taking them on a boat ride, in case the boat capsizes, they're not going to drown. If you're going to be out there preserving capital, getting a paycheck, fighting for your family's finances, sharing some Bitcoin knowledge, bringing them closer to Bitcoin is probably the best thing you can do for them financially. And so I have a deep love and appreciation for everyone in Parks and Recreation. So if you're here from my Parks and Rec community, a lot of you have already asked me a ton about Bitcoin, and I'm trying to share as much as I can with you. And putting on this podcast is a way for me to give back to that community, in addition to creating a media company for the daily Parks and Rec show. So forgive me, Bitcoiners, if this show is really not made for Bitcoiners. Matter of fact, if you're a Bitcoiner listening to this show, there's probably a lot of better shows that you could go listening to. I wanted to create something for people coming into Bitcoin, and especially people coming from an area like municipal government, which is a lot of my crowd. And so I want to make content that's for them. So anyway, that's my show for today. I hope I could share with you all a little bit of my mission and vision for this daily Bitcoin podcast. Share a little bit about what I've learned, reflecting on what Sun Tzu's Art of War teaches about knowing the new terrain. Give you all a little how-to on how to get into Bitcoin, how to convert people to there, and at least what's worked for me. Hope that was helpful for everybody. I'd like to give a shout out to both my Bitcoin meetups that stayed on me. Ted, Mr. Mark Couvion, Daniel, Morgan, everyone that just encouraged me to keep going and get back into content creation for Bitcoin. It really was a passion of mine, and I missed it a lot. And you guys really kept that fire lit inside of me. So I really appreciate that. And a lot of other Bitcoiners, especially from the Bitcoin, the daily show, I kept in touch with, and they continued to encourage me to do the same. And so really appreciate that. And I think I'm back, and I'm going to continue to make content for you guys and bring a lot of Bitcoiners on there. We've got a really good lineup starting. I think I've got about 40 people that are going to start scheduling that I'll bring onto the show. Morgan was on yesterday, so appreciate that, Morgan. Love talking to you. Wealth and knowledge. The Bitcoiners never disappoint when it comes to the knowledge they have and their journey. It's a challenging journey. And so usually if a Bitcoiner has gone all in, it's a wild ride, and it's always proves it to be an interesting story. So if you know someone in the Bitcoin, just ask them, so how'd you get into Bitcoin, and tell me about your journey, and then just hold on because it's usually a hysterical up and down rides going through crypto space and everything else you can imagine. But I love having those guys on. So, all right. So again, this show is going to be, I'm going to do it Sunday through Thursday because I'm taking Friday and Saturday as my weekends. Sundays, I've got to start working because that's when my Filipino team comes on, and a lot of my designers and content creators are over there. So Sunday's kind of like Monday for me. So I'll be going Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, through Thursday. So it'll be a 5-day work week for me. Of course, I love what I do. So this is not work for me. This is actually joyful. I love doing it. So glad to be able to serve the community in this way. So catch us here tomorrow. We're going live on my X account. I created the Bitcoin the Daily Bitcoin Podcast account. So please follow and share that one. If you're listening to this and you're a regular and you want to contribute and help out, share this page. But also, if you're listening, just post it and then pin it while you're listening to this roughly 1 hour show. And that just boosts the signal. So more people in your audience will see it. And if there's any Bitcoiners that are curious about Bitcoin and want to hear a daily show where I'm bringing on some of the movers and shakers of Bitcoin and maybe just explaining some of the things that I've learned, might be interesting to them. So it'll help me grow the audience. And that's kind of all I can ask right now, is just help me grow this audience so that we can get the message out to as many people as possible. All right, signing off. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern, Sunday through Thursday. I will see y'all again here tomorrow. Y'all have an awesome night. Love you guys. Bye.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. As Craig LeBlanc from the Daily Parks and Recreation